Hello, I'm Casey Aiken, and this is 21 This Week. Coming up next, who will be blamed for nation's gas shortage? Why are more women running for county council? Governor Hogan lifting COVID restrictions, and the Maryland Department of Transportation removes large stretches of the Capital Beltway from the toll lane plan. Our panel of insiders will give you the story behind the story. We're joined by attorney Ron Little and Secretary of the Montgomery County Federation of Republican Women, Laurie Halverson. Stay tuned for these stories and more on the next 21 This Week. On Wednesday, May 12th, Maryland Governor Larry Hogan announced that effective Saturday, May 15th, all capacity restrictions would be lifted for restaurants and bars, as well as outdoor and indoor venues for art, entertainment, sports, and conventions. Indoor masking requirements will still be required, however. Ron, predictably, Montgomery County Council Vice President Gabe Albornoz rejected the governor's lead. Why do we think of Montgomery County that we're the smartest people on the world? And does Health Director Gales think that he's that much smarter than everybody else in the state?
Well, I think if you ask most Montgomery County residents, we all might be willing to concede that we are smarter than everybody else, not just in the state, but in the entire country. But I think, look, honestly, I think everybody's still a little trepidatious about what we can expect with large mass gatherings, whether they're indoor or outdoor. And I don't know if they think that the science doesn't support opening up to that quantity. I mean, jumping from the restrictions that we've had into full-blown, everybody's free to do whatever they want, is quite a large step forward. And we know that Montgomery County has historically not walked lockstep with Governor Hogan or Governor O'Malley or many governors, that we've had in the past. We just typically do our own thing.
But it's also it's a philosophical thing too, isn't it?
Of course it's philosophical. I think, Republican leadership on the coronavirus issue has been sketchy from the top and has gotten progressively better as it's filtered down to states. But I think there's still this underlying fear that the Republican perspective on the coronavirus isn't as seriously taken as it is with, Democrats and liberals across the country.
Well, Laurie, I'm sure you want to rebut that, but 57% of the county residents have received their first dose, and the number of new cases at the lowest in a year. Now, I know the county has this metric that we have to get to 60% before, we dare open up any further, and their grand plan says we won't open up until June. But can't they be a little flexible on this?
Ron said it earlier. He said underlying fear. And I think, when Democrats are more run by their fear, Republicans are not. They look at the science and reality. So I think when you look at what Elrich is doing, is he's got a little bit of tunnel vision there, and he's looking at, he talks about the infection rate and how it's the lowest in Montgomery County among most of the jurisdictions in the United States. Well, there's a lot of other things you got to look at besides just the infection rate. He's got that tunnel vision looking at just that. We have a 7-day average in Montgomery County of 4.1 cases per 100,000. That's fantastic. We have a 1.8% positivity rate today. That's fantastic. It's time to open up along with the state. The state has done just fine with the Hogan decisions up to date. Maybe they're a little bit higher on the metrics, but Maryland has done extremely well. And if they're going to open up all of their businesses, why can't our county do this?
Well, here's the dichotomy, and then we have to go on to another subject. Part of this is that Montgomery County just received a big chunk of money, from the state. And they're going to allocate $300 million to helping restaurants. Well, restaurants really want to be open. They don't want help. They want to be open. But we got to go on to this next part because, Laurie, Governor Hogan announced that young teens between the ages of 12 and 15 are eligible for the Pfizer vaccine. But aren't there questions as to why young people need to take the vaccine, and is it safe?
Yeah, there are a lot of questions about it. It's just, we've just heard now that the Pfizer vaccine is eligible, that kids can now get it, age 12 to 15. But I don't think it should be required for young people to get the vaccine, but the Johns Hopkins, when I went on their website, they do recommend that this age group does get the vaccine. It not only protects them, it protects other people who may not have gotten the vaccine or who may be more susceptible to getting it, even though if they had the vaccine, they might still be infected. It's probably not going to be as bad, but still, I think it's a good idea for young people, but it's a decision that people need to make for their kids, and the kids at that age could also be involved, I think, in trying to decide with their parents on what to do. But it's safe, and only one child in the state of Maryland has died directly from COVID. So the chances of dying is extremely, extremely low, probably higher for.
Well, I want to roll. So. Thank you, Laurie. I want to finish up with Ron on this. Is it safe, Ron? And have we come to the conclusion that we just have to live with it? That we're going to have to live with COVID the rest of our lives?
No, I think that's ridiculous. And, I want to not backpedal, but go back to, Republicans and science were definitely not merging during the past 4 years, particularly during the last year. So the idea that, Democrats are a little bit more timid, I think it's cautious is the more operative term. We want to make sure that the citizenship at large has all of the information that they need to make decisions for themselves, whether it's good information or bad information. And I think children, by and large, should be vaccinated because of the populations they cross with so frequently. It's a good idea as far as I'm concerned.
Well, we're going to have to leave it there, because I want to go on to really what is probably a more important immediate change to Montgomery County. And this is that the Maryland Department of Transportation announced that it was removing from its plan to install toll-funded lanes, between I-270 and I-95. They're going to keep the hot lanes from the bridge up to 70, but they're not going to expand the hot lanes along the Beltway over to I-95. So Ron, this hot lane proposal was very unpopular with Montgomery County leaders and Prince George's County leaders. Now, who can take who can take credit for the reversal in the policy?
I think it's a collective effort. I think the larger view was the environmental impact, whether or not the hot lanes as they were proposed were really beneficial to the counties that they were intended to cross. Nobody wants to pay more in tolls and taxes and bridge expenses. While we do need to repair our infrastructure, that this might not have been the best way to merge those two ideas. The science needs to support that, increasing or expansion would be a good idea versus the environmental impact and how it would possibly force people to move further out by expanding that. So I don't know if anyone can take credit. I think the idea had been kicked around long enough that everybody just got tired of it.
All right, so Laurie, I'm going to ask you a question, and in that question, you're going to tell Ron why he's wrong. All right?
Oh boy.
So Laurie, I hate to introduce politics into a politically charged decision. It has nothing to do with the environment. Perhaps Governor Hogan noted the lack of support and decided it wasn't worth the political capital that he was going to get tarred with, and he kicked the Capital Beltway congestion, which we're going to have to live with for another 10 years. He kicked that can down the highway to his successor.
Yeah, I think the hot lanes got a lot of hot air from all these activists and environmentalists, and it just wasn't a good political move for Hogan to make if he's still considering running for president. But I actually think that it may be a smart move. I'm sorry to say this, Casey, but But so much has changed with coronavirus, and I've been hearing a lot of people saying that the government workers are not going to be working in their offices. A lot of them are going to be working from home. So I think what might be a prudent thing is to wait until after coronavirus, until any major decisions are made, and see what happens to the traffic in a few years. And then revisit it. I want to see those lanes built. I thought it was a great idea, but we're going to keep getting a lot of, pressure, and maybe now we need to just look at what's going on and reevaluate, and Republicans can keep working on it and have better arguments to go after everyone else.
It wasn't, this was, I think, a fundamental business issue and a life issue for Montgomery County residents. We are going to be strangled in traffic in 10 years. People think that nobody's going back to work. Trust me, they're going to end up going back to work. It may not be next year, but there will be a creep. The reason the free capital or the capital of the free world is getting bigger and bigger is because we are capital of the free world, and people will keep coming here, and we are going to be choking on traffic, and these gutless politicians should know better and should plan for the future. When we come back from this short break, why are more women running for political office? Laurie and Ron are going to give you the answer. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Online political website Maryland Matters reports that more and more women are stepping forward to run for political office, particularly here in Montgomery County for county council. Ron, the article pointed out two candidates, Natalie Fani Gonzalez and Kirsten Mink, who have announced that they are running for county council. How important is it that women run for office?
I think it's fundamental to our democracy to have women equally represented in our elected and appointed positions at every level of government. But here's the reality. We ask women to manage our homes, to manage how our children are reared, to manage everything that's important about our personal lives, truth being told. I don't see why it's such a shock that we would ask women to contribute that same commitment and knowledge to how our government, local, state, and federal are being governed. I think that they have a voice, it should be heard, and the best way for them to do that is to be in those positions.
Well, but Ron, I'm really surprised that this is broadcast as a headline. I mean, Montgomery County, we are very enlightened. We have had a long history of female participants and participation on the county council. And Laurie, excuse me, while there are currently only one female member on the county council, Nancy Navarro, but in the past there have been greater representation, particularly among Republican women 20 years ago. And in fact, Ron, I think you pointed out, at one point, there were 3 women members of the county council. So this shouldn't be a headline burning news that women are running. We've had a long history of women running. Laurie, what do you think?
Yeah, well, not since Republicans Nancy Dasik and Betty Ann Kroenke were on the county council. We haven't had a woman who's a Republican on the county council. Would love to see that change. I won't say the names now, but I do know there are some excellent candidates coming up on the Republican side. So look out, Democrats. And there are, they're not the typical Republican that you would think about. So that there's a clue for you.
I don't know if that, is that good or bad?
It's good. It's good. We're really excited that, and we have the Montgomery County GOP Central Committee is actively looking for people and doing a great job at finding people who we don't normally hear from. They're coming out of the woodworks because they really want to see our county change. We've got business people, we've got some great people, but women in particular, I think Democrats will be more likely to vote for a Republican woman than a Republican man. So I think for Republicans especially, it's important to have Republican women candidates.
look at all that strategy going on. You just gave. Not typical Republicans. I don't know what that. I don't,
Well,
know
I don't
what
really mean typical Republican. I meant not the typical profile of what you would think. Like, okay, me. All right, I'm a typical Republican.
Well, I don't know how to take that, Laurie. Anyway, Ron, your point is great. Laurie, your point is great. We do need more women running. I think it's wonderful. But, as I said, here in Montgomery County, we've been pretty enlightened. So, we're fortunate. So I don't think it's a shock that we have a lot of great female candidates running for office. So let's go on to our next topic, which is the topic du jour in the nation's capital right now, which is the gas shortage. And no politician wants to be blamed for people waiting in line at the gas pump. Just ask Jimmy Carter. And as one of my friends said to me, President Biden's popularity numbers will be in the toilet if gas hits $4 a gallon. Ron, this week we saw how vulnerable our supply lines are as a cyber attack shut down a gas pipeline that supplies the majority of fuel up and down the East Coast. Who's going to take heat for this?
I think everybody should take heat for this. I think that our vulnerabilities as a nation have been exposed more frequently than we like to admit. We had exposure with voting irregularities. We've had exposure to other cyber attacks. I think that the public, by and large, is expecting our government to protect us from these threats that they're not imagined. They're very real. People have been very vocal about looking for alternative ways to harm how we govern ourselves and how we live in this nation. And the public has an expectation that every 3-letter government agency is fully invested in making sure that the public is protected from these kinds of events. It's not that we have a gas shortage, but that our systems were exposed and violated such that it made it impossible for gas to get to the stations and the communities.
Ron, I hate saying that you just missed the curveball by a mile, because the fact is we have one. Here's the problem: we have one pipeline, and we have governors and the president of the United States holding up construction of pipelines across this country. In New York, Governor Cuomo killed a big pipeline that would have brought natural gas from Pennsylvania to New York and Massachusetts. We have our leadership is failing us because they're caving in to environmental nonsense. That these pipelines are vital to our country and our economy.
We've thrived for a long time with that one pipeline. I don't think it's necessarily caving to environmentalists. I think it's recognizing that we have some serious environmental concerns.
You need redundancy in sourcing, Ron. You can't just have one pipeline serving the whole East Coast of the United States. You need more than one. And if you aren't going to allow construction, we're going to have this problem over and over again, not only from the vulnerability from cyber attacks, but from age. These things are getting older and need to be replaced and improved upon.
I agree.
All right. Laurie, this may be a short-term problem, but we got another problem that's on the horizon. This week, the Consumer Price Index rose to 4.2% in April. That's the fastest increase since the recession in 2008. How are voters going to react to what is effectively a regressive tax on their income?
Yes, it is a regressive tax. When you look at how the gas prices are affecting us. I mean, I saw a viral video yesterday of a woman collecting gas in a plastic grocery bag. Did you see that? And she had to, and it was leaking when she picked it up, and then she had to put another bag underneath it. And this is how bad policies come down and reach the consumer. Okay. Bad policies of the past with all of this environmentalist stuff where, the Keystone Pipeline now is trashed, is causing people to put gas in their plastic trash bags. I mean, this is unbelievable. I'd like to see Trump back in office.
Well, I know you would, but the reality is that's not going to happen anytime soon. So Ron, what do you think about this increase in the CPI? This is a big jump, And there's, people are not going to be happy when they can't go out and buy lumber or for, a small building project.
I don't think it's as bad as it looks right now. I think that we're looking at a broad view. We're looking at COVID impacts. We're looking at, pipeline shutdown impacts. We're looking at supply impacts. We're looking at all of these negative effects that we've had to deal with and try to manage for the past year. I think as soon as things settle, then everything's going to be just fine. We won't have people strolling down the street with bags of gasoline, and life is going to return to normal. And I don't think that it's as far as we think it is.
I hope you are right, but I feel like you're whistling past the graveyard on this, my friend, because I am not hopeful. The CPI does not track food costs, and the cost of, if you go to the grocery store, your food costs are up. The CPI does track a lot of other things, including our heating costs, our housing costs of automobiles. I think we're in a very, very precarious time financially, and we ought to be aware of it.
Yeah, when it comes to 2022, when everyone's voting, the relief funds that they received are going to be very distant. They're not going to remember that. They're going to remember what they're paying now, or what they're paying then for all those increased costs.
Well, Laurie, I know that's what you're counting on, but I'm not sure that people have that kind of a memory. I think, and people vote, they vote their wallets, they vote their pocketbooks. So we'll see what happens. If Ron's right, you're going to be wrong, Laurie. I'm sorry to have to tell you that. Stay tuned for parting shots when we come back from a short break. Welcome back. Now with parting shots, Laurie Halverson.
Okay, I just want to say how there's many times where the media is really slamming Trump for being a liar and saying things that are incorrect. And then months later, we find out that he was correct. So I just want to point out that there is a decision now to build more wall on the Rio Grande Valley, and because of the crisis, and that we didn't talk about the border crisis this week, but it is a crisis that Biden and Harris, Kamala is supposed to be watching this, and she's supposed to be going down there, and she's not doing it. No one's been down to the border, so that's a really big issue. And but at least they're recognizing that we need a wall, at least in a part of the on the border. So that's what I wanted to say.
Thank you, Laurie. Ron Little, your parting shot.
My parting shot this week is in anticipation of all of those students, particularly high school seniors, who struggled this year to be educated and to do as best they can to prepare themselves for their journeys onto college. This has been a difficult year for everyone around the world, and the students, our future, have done an amazing job at being committed and showing their fortitude and looking forward to forging ahead and contributing to society. So shout out to all of our high school seniors and everyone else graduating this year.
Thank you, Ron. I'm gonna wrap this up with a little political outrage. There's a proposal right now that part of University Boulevard be closed down for bike lanes, permanent bike lanes. Let me tell you what a bad idea that is. You're going to squeeze 4 lanes of traffic into 3. You know what that produces? That produces a traffic jam, and it's going to be worse and worse for the average citizen. And for the one bicyclist each hour that gets to use it, mazel tov. I'm really happy for you, buddy. But while everybody else has to suffer for your pleasure, that's what we're looking forward to. The county council's having a hearing on this next week. Get online, complain. This is a terrible idea. Just drive down Old Georgetown Road into Bethesda if you want to see how bad it works. Now, I want to thank the panel for being here today. I want to thank the audience for tuning in each and every week to Montgomery County's hardest hitting political talk show. For 21 this week, I'm Casey Aiken.